The last shloka, we heard that how Lord Krishna is mentioning about Jivatma, who is when led by mind, can actually deliver himself from this material world and and can enter into the Goloka. But how do we do this? Because it's a very difficult task. As we all know that mind uh, runs with a speed faster than even the wind, as Arjuna had asked Krishna. So, and to control the mind is very difficult. If we control it, then we can actually realize the purpose of human life. And if we can't, then everything is ruined. So if we can, then it is said that when we conquer the mind, how do we do that? That is the question. Because once we have understood the difference between the consequences of conquering the mind and not being able to conquer the mind, we need to know how do we conquer the mind. And in this shloka, verse 6, in the shloka 6, chapter 6, Shri Krishna is explaining that to Arjuna. Guys, and then we can practice together. Bandhuratmatmanastasya yenatmaivatmana jitah anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat. Duratmatmanastasya yenatmaivatmana jitah anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat. Bandhuratmatmanastasya yenatmaivatmana jitah anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat. Please recite after me. Bandhuratmatmanastasya yenatmaivatmana jitah anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat. Bandhuratmatmanastasya yenatmaivatmana jitah anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat. We'll do it once more. Bandhuratmatmanastasya natmaivatmana jitah atmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat. So now the word meaning and translation by His Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Bandhu, friend. Atma, the mind. Atmana,
Atmana
of the living entity,
of the living entity,
tasya,
Tasya
of him,
of him,
yena,
Yena
by whom,
by whom
atma,
Atma
mind,
Mind,
eva,
Eva
certainly,
certainly,
atmana,
Atmana
uh, so,
by the
by the living entity,
the living entity.
jitaha,
Jita,
conquered
anatmana,
Anatma,
of one,
of one
failed to control the mind,
has failed to control the mind.
two,
Two,
but
but
shatrutve, because of enmity, varteta,
Varteta
remains,
remains.
atma eva,
Atma eva,
very mind,
very mind,
shatruvat,
Shatruvat,
as an enemy.
as an enemy.
Now the translation. For him who has conquered the mind, the
For
mind,
him
who has conquered the mind,
the mind is the best,
the mind is the best.
mind is the best of
Okay.
friends.
but for one
But for
But
one
who has failed to do so,
who has
who has
failed
failed to do so,
his mind will remain
his
his
mind,
mind will remain
the greatest enemy.
the
greatest
greatest enemy.
So here, Srila Prabhupada, how he explains the verse is that the purpose, first of all, the purpose of practicing any kind of yoga is to control the mind in order to make it a friend, so as to discharge the duties or the duties which will lead us to achieving the purpose of human life. So unless the mind is controlled, the practice of yoga is actually of no use. And for that, we also have to understand the constitutional position of Jivatma, which is to actually carry out the order of the Supreme Lord. But what happens in this material world? The conditioned soul gets entangled by the three modes of passion and is led by the enemies residing within us, which manifest them in the form of lust, anger, illusion, etc. And we keep on, the Jivatma keeps on running after those things led by the material modes of nature. But when the mind is conquered, that means when one voluntarily agrees to abide by the instruction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and one realizes that one understands that the Supreme Personality of Godhead resides within the heart of Jivatma, within the heart of everyone as Paramatma, the real yoga practice, it actually starts meeting the Paramatma within the heart and then following his instructions. So the difference between the mind when it is not conquered is that when we the Jivatmas become slaves to the mind, running after material things. But once we understand our relationship with the Supreme Lord, with the Paramatma, and reestablish that connection within the Paramatma residing within our hearts, and it is by default and organically that we start following the instructions of the Lord, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is Krishna consciousness. And for one who actually takes to Krishna consciousness directly, he perfects the surrender to the instruction of the Lord and follows it automatically. So this is about this shloka.